All right, well, welcome everybody to our last Media Lab workshop in this Finding Your Roots series. It's not the last Media Lab workshop. We will do more, and we'll talk more about that later, but this is the last one in this series. So I'm excited to be your presenter. I don't even have any help for this one, but that just meant that I got to geek out and have fun with this tool. And I can't wait to share it with you because it really is such a cool thing. And I think it fits so nicely with our discussion about helping kids tell stories using digital tools and chronicle what they learn when they interview their family members. You know, the goal of these workshops has been to inspire you with clips from Finding Your Roots, which our new season has been in progress. And then hopefully you would have your students do a family research project and talk to their families. And I just love this idea, and I'm finding a way to incorporate this into some of the activities that we're creating for PBS Learning Media as well. I think there's so much value in having kids interview family members and community members and learn about stories that way. And then we hope that those will translate into digital storytelling in some way. And this one, I forgot to highlight it, but the timeline is actually an option for both video, photo, and audio. When you create the timeline, you can do all three of these. So it's a really cool mashup of all of our audio visuals. So it's really a multimedia tool. The clip I want to share today from Finding Your Roots actually comes from the collection called the Seedlings. And if you were in earlier workshops, we talked about this collection a little bit, in that this was a camp that was put on for middle school students in Pennsylvania. And the kids were immersed in this Finding Your Roots genetics and genealogy camp. And they got to start the week by submitting their DNA testing results. So do a DNA test. They don't get the results till the end. And they spend that whole week doing genealogical studies on their families and their backgrounds. And at the end, they get to see their DNA tests, which is really cool. And I found this clip from the very first thing in the collection. You can see the whole curriculum. I'll click on this link here. The whole thing is here on PBS Learning. Oh no, this is the curriculum, sorry. So when you go to the collection, you have to just fill out this information to download their curriculum. And then they'll share you a Microsoft link so that you can have the materials and all the lesson plans and everything that they created for this camp are there for you to use with students. And I think camps obviously had their place and can be, you know, a little bit more immersive than maybe what we do in the classroom. But I always find that there's always a lesson or an activity or some questions that I think, oh, I would use that in the classroom. So it's definitely worth checking out. Or if you want to be ambitious and do some kind of a similar camp at your setting, you could do that. So let's take a look. This is from PBS Learning Media in the Seedlings. And here it is, it appears here, and it's called Finding Your Roots, the Seedlings, and that's the question, that's the collection.
13 kids, ages 10 to 13, from different parts of the US and Canada, each with different stories and families with origins the world over, came together for a genetics and genealogy camp to research the question,
you can see your DNA very clearly.
Who am I? Who were my ancestors? Where did they come from? How are we different? How much do we share? And how far back can we go?
My dad's great-great-great-grandfather.
They're digging into their family trees and finding their roots.
I always wondered where I came from and why am I here? I was really excited to start it because I really wanted to learn about myself.
It sounded really cool, so I sent in my form to try to be part of the camp.
I thought that it would be a good experience for me because I love science and I want to study about DNA.
We're going to give you the tools to explore, the tools to explore other organisms, the tools to think about your near and distant ancestry. And the beautiful thing about this approach is that you are in the driver's seat. All you campers are doing the work of scientists. You are scientists this week.
And I'm hoping that I learned a lot here.
Well, welcome to Finding Your Roots. One of the most fundamental questions we all ask ourselves is kind of who am I and who are we? You know, it's as natural a question as, you know, human beings have asked ourselves since the beginning of time.
I have to search all of this stuff up.
We're asking curious kids to ask questions about their own origin, about their own place in their family's genealogy, and their own place in human evolution. Basically, where do they fit in the universe of humanity?
The Finding Your Roots camps were the brainchild of Harvard professor and Finding Your Roots series host Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Penn State anthropology professor Nina Jablonski.
I knew it was a good idea. It's one thing to think you have a good idea, but this is a great idea. And no child will be left behind if we have them trace their family tree. Why? Because what's your favorite subject? Your favorite subject is yourself. Both genetics and genealogy are about your ancestry. They both offer you a window onto the past. One, the recent past, genealogy, because you can only pursue the paper trail as long as there is paper in the trail. And then when the paper trail disappears, we look into the distant past through genetics.
So by starting with genealogy and going back one generation at a time, and then getting kids to imagine, what would it be like 16 or 64 generations back, or 1,000 generations back? Then we are in the realm of their genetics and human evolution. They can see the continuity from themselves to their distant ancestors.
Some camps they call us children or campers, but here what they call us scientists.
What's the reason why I refer to you as scientists in this camp, not campers or kids or students?
We get to like try to be scientists.
Absolutely. So you get to be in the lab and then you actually get to not try, actually be scientists, right? Yeah.
We spent a lot of time getting the kids to identify as scientists right from the beginning. When they realized that they could do it just as well as the adult scientists, they became empowered and excited.
Daniel Mann, he's my third.
In this web series, we'll show how young scientists build knowledge and research skills over the course of the camp.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's the DNA condensing.
Experiments and games teach lessons about mutation, adaptation, natural selection, classification,
No, these are bigger.
evolution, differences, and relatedness.
You can show me why you think this part's wrong.
What do you think you are?
Campers will make predictions for what they think their ancestry will be.
All of my family traveled over from Europe at one time.
Well, I think I'm South Asian because I only have information about that since I'm adopted. That's what I think, yeah.
And they will open the results of their individual DNA tests conducted weeks before at the same time together.
I'm 100% European.
2% Korean.
From the big picture of genetics to the very personal of genealogy, campers learn to use all their resources, starting with their own family.
The first thing that all genealogists want to find is what we call a vital record.
Navigating the paper trail in a digital world online, and going beyond the limitations of the internet by seeking out sources in the real world.
When she was in the home or something.
Like this is you, and then
After that, I guess in about the middle 30s.
All the while, each developing his or her own personal project to unveil on the final day, when the doors open and they present their findings to their families.
Discovering a new aspect about oneself through one's ancestors is infectious. Genealogy puts you there. And all of a sudden, the abstractions of American history, the endless names and dates and timelines. All of a sudden, they have a face and a texture, and the face somehow resembles you. History becomes a mirror, and you can see yourself in it. It's hard to beat.
Kids love to study themselves. We can show you how you can bring the tools of finding your roots into your after-school program, summer camp, or classroom. Check out what happens when kids study their own DNA and family history by viewing our education programs and trying our research-based curriculum materials. For more information, visit us online.
About your thoughts as you were watching that video and what it made you think about. Go ahead, Jerry.
I really found it really interesting. I'm glad that they mentioned that they also talk about how they're alike. I think that's kind of a cool thing that we should be focusing more on now. You know, if you look at, I don't know what the numbers are, but the percents of our DNA that are exactly the same between all of us, and that very small fraction that makes us different than each other and makes us unique. I like that they also focus not just on that little bit that makes us different, but on what makes us the same and how much we are the same. I hope that when they're doing the camp, they spend some time talking about that no matter how we may look or sound different or where we came from, that we're almost genetically, DNA-wise, we're almost identical.
Yeah.
So I hope they focus on that too. They mentioned it, but I would hope it's something they talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's probably a big part of that curriculum that I showed you. Anyone else have thoughts?
I really like how it's, you know, it's like the classroom setting. So there's the learning, there's the, you know, like a lot of those science principles, but then it's just amped up with the connection to themselves. And so it's true learning. That's what creates those lifelong learners, is that connection to self always.
Yeah, and Melissa put in the chat that she felt she liked the same thing, putting students in charge of their learning, calling them scientists, not campers, not kids. I think that's powerful language to use. And I really liked Henry Louis Gates, the comment he made about what are kids most interested in? Well, themselves. That's so true, especially of middle school and high school students too. So if you can start there, engagement's going to be a little bit higher. So that was our Finding Your Roots section. So now I'm going to talk about our tool, which is called TimeLine JS by Night Lab. And I first learned about this a long time ago. I went to San Francisco to visit the PBS station there, and they did a little mini workshop and taught us how to use this because it's one of the tools that they shared with teachers. And I'll show you an example of what it looks like so you can kind of see big picture, and then we'll go into the nitty-gritty of how to create this. So I've actually, now that I've been playing with it, I've seen them in a lot of places. A lot of industries use these on their websites. Montana PBS has one, and we have it here on our website under TimeLine. And it was built to tell the story of our station. And so this is what it looks like. We have images and we have text, and then you can see the actual timeline develops down here. And so the very first date on here is 1966. And as you scroll through, I've got to move my picture window here. As you scroll through here, Montana State University gets certified. So that's the very beginning of our story at Montana PBS. Because we exist under Montana State University. And then it moves on to the next one, where we've got this sort of just a piece of text about what you may not know is that Montana PBS was started by a concerned mother in the community that wanted her children to have access to Sesame Street and children's programming. And so she got a bunch of moms together, and this was in the 1980s, and worked with MSU and public television to bring Montana PBS and children's programming to Montana. And her name is Nancy Flickema. And you might know her daughter if you're a teacher, Christy Gaines. She's a teacher here in Bozeman. So really awesome family. So it goes through here and it tells our story. And you can also put in images. This is just, I think, a screenshot of a newspaper article. So it's not the best image, but it's got your text and it's got the date right there. And you can kind of go through and see how the timeline works. And it just kind of scrolls through. And with all the important dates, you can put the image and the text and go there. But you can also, you know, we can scroll through here on the timeline itself and go to different points in time. About, you know, these sort of points in time. We can kind of see the last piece there. And this is embedded in our website. So we just had the embed code and this whole tool just ended up in our website. Let me go back to my slides and I'll show you from the website itself what it looks like here. And they've got a really nice example. So as I said, this is a web tool, so it's free. And the one they've got here in our example is for women in computing. And so it's got a nice big banner picture right here. And as you click through these, it'll have this is an image. And again, you can kind of see the text. You can also put in maps. So there's a map of the first computer and where it's located. Here's where there's a video. So you could put YouTube videos in it as well, along with your text and the date and things like that, and moving along that way. So this is a really neat way to let students conceptualize a series of events and to take all that media that they dig up in their research and put it in order. We'll go back to my slides here so that you can kind of walk through, and we'll go through my example in a little bit. But essentially, the procedures are that you are going to use a template that's on the website that is a Google Sheet. And it has everything laid out for you in the Google Sheet. And you make a copy of it and you rename it. And then you input your dates, the caption for your text, a link for the images or the videos that you want to use. And then you publish the spreadsheet to the internet. And then that creates a link for your timeline. And the link can be shared just as a link, or it could be embedded into a website. And then it will automatically update. So once you put things in the spreadsheet, and I tested this, I can confirm it's true. Once you've got everything in your spreadsheet and you publish it, you go and look at it, you can go back and add things to your spreadsheet and it will auto update on your actual timeline, which is really cool. So here's the one that I did. And I was just thinking of the project that I always think of is kids can think about themselves first. And, you know, what is the timeline of their lives? Well, depending on how old they are, it's not going to be very long. So what if we also had them think of some key historical events that have happened in the course of their lifetime, that they can input their information, significant things that happened in their lives, and then these historical events. So I'll give you an idea. And I didn't do my whole life here, just spoiler alert, I only did a few years. But so I was able to put in my image and my birthday, and then I was born during a blizzard, those little details. Put in that I started school at Emerson School in the 80s, September 83. And then because I remember being in second grade when the Challenger exploded and being in my second grade classroom and watching that on television. And that was a significant event that happened not long after I started school. So it would be the same kind of thing, maybe for students. Then there's my high school graduation. And then around the same time I graduated was when the Freeman standoff happened in eastern Montana. And it's interesting because Montana PBS just put out a new film called The Rise of the Freeman. You can watch it on our website for free if you're interested. It's a really great film about this story and the standoff and what happened. And so I included this little video, that's the trailer for the film, that can be played right from the timeline. like I didn't share my sound, so you can't see it. You can't see that, but so that's how it would work there. And that happened within the same week that I graduated from high school. So that was sort of a significant thing. I put in my trip to New Zealand, which Jerry knows all about because he was there too. And then graduating from college. And I could go on had I finished, you notice I graduated from college in 2001. Few months later, September 11th, and the Twin Towers went down, my first year of teaching, and that would have been the next thing that I put in there. So thinking about our lives and those historical events that could be happening, and how we might be able to use the timeline. I'm going to stop there now that you've seen it. Obviously, I'm going to show you how to do this, but I know that when I first saw this tool, a bunch of light bulbs appeared about, gosh, how could I use this? So I want to encourage you to share. What are you noticing right now? What do you think you could do with this tool?
I automatically go to like English teachers who are reading novels where it takes place over many years and locations, and students can go ahead and could plug those in. So it's not even necessarily about themselves. It would be
still thinking. Go ahead, Jerry.
I was thinking this is kind of off the biographical thing. Have students track what they learned throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
So you could even have multiple ones. So you could have like a math one and a science one, and then they could look back and not only use it as kind of a guide, but as kind of a yearbook of what they've done that year, and they could just update it as they hit those milestones that are important to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially because all schools have those big traditions that they typically do, and different field trips or things like that they could add there. Carrie said that's exactly what your lesson is tomorrow, comparing historical novels they just finished to the World War II that they just finished in history. So that's awesome. Great. I love that. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I just think timelines like that, as kids are reading novels, it gives them perspective, especially when it's happening over time, where you could be reading a novel and it could happen over 5 or 10 years, but they don't understand that always. So having that perspective of it in timeline form, I think, is awesome.
Love to see it on a school website of, here's when the school was established and here's what the original building looked like, and what a nice way to kind of share the school's history with the community in that digital way as well. Now I'll show you the process for creating the timeline. I'll kind of just go through all of it. And the cool thing about this website is it really does just walk you through it. I did watch the informational videos, and I watched another tutorial on it as well. And in fact, I put the tutorial in the slides down here in the notes section where it says great tutorial. I highly recommend watching that when you get started, because it does give you some tips and tricks that I wouldn't have discovered otherwise. So visit that link when you get a chance. But I'll take you through. I'll show this video that's on their website, just because I think it's this nice quick version of how to do this, and then I'll walk you through it.
Hello and welcome to TimeLine.js. TimeLine.js is a tool for making visually rich, interactive, and embeddable timelines. In this video, we'll show you just how easy creating a timeline is. We'll work with an example of a short history of women in computing. On the TimeLine.js homepage, you'll find the timeline creator along with some tips to help you get started. It's an easy 4-step process. The first step is to create a Google spreadsheet. We provide a template you can start with by clicking Get the Spreadsheet Template. You'll need to make a copy of this template onto your own Google Drive account by clicking Use this template. Here, you can customize the timeline to your story. We'll start with the headline, Women in Computing, and move on to further slides. Each row in the spreadsheet is a separate event for your timeline. For each event, you can set a start date and an end date if your event has one. But if it doesn't, feel free to leave the end date spaces blank. You can work with several different types of media in your spreadsheet, including photos, videos, audio, tweets, and Google Maps. Find the full list of supported media types in our documentation section. You don't want to edit the column headers in the first row. You also don't want to leave any blank rows in your spreadsheet. Remember that TimeLine.js is a storytelling tool, so although there isn't technically a limit to how many slides you can create, we recommend not having more than 20. Now that you have your spreadsheet ready, you'll move on to step 2 and publish it to the web. You'll want to go to File and then click Publish to Web. You'll copy the URL and paste it into the space in step 3. Here you can customize further with some of the optional settings that we provide, such as changing the language, font, and even the slide your project starts on. You'll want to preview your timeline and check over your work. Click the first preview link to see your project below. If you want a specific link that you can share with people or email, click Get the Link to Preview, which should take you to a new tab and your project. Now you can still edit your spreadsheet at this point, and there's no need to republish it. When you've got it just right, you'll copy the embed code in step 4 and paste that where you want it to appear on your site. And that's it. We hope you find many uses for your timeline. Thank you for watching.
Okay, so that was really fast, but that's kind of an overview. They do have a lot of examples. So if you did want to just use their timelines for your own lessons, just to have kids have another way to consume, or to give kids an opportunity to see what's possible, they have a few here on different topics that you can scroll through. And then just keep scrolling on the website, and here's all of your steps. So we start by get the spreadsheet template. It forces you to make a copy of it. So all you have to do is click make a copy, and it opens it up, and it's got stuff in it to kind of show you where things could be. But the video I watched really recommended just selecting all of that and clearing it so that you have all these are free. All these cells are free. You don't want to get rid of these things at the top though, so don't mess with those. So you can do just the year, or you can take it down to month, day, time if you want to. So if we want to say maybe our year is 1980, and then we're going to do another year and it's going to be 1990, and we'll have another one 2000. Maybe we're just going to do like a decades one. Like that. So once I've done this one for 1980, if you want to do an ending date, you can. If it's like, if you're talking about an era or something that happened over a long course of time. For mine, I chose to just not worry about that. And then your headline is what appears first on the page. So we can be like, rock and roll, all right? And then the text is the piece that's going to appear below the headline on the main screen. So I'm just going to write gibberish right here. Now the next part is the media, and it has to be something that's already published on the internet. You are not uploading things to this or putting in images that you may have taken yourself. They have to be things that live on the internet, because you're going to paste a link to the image link in this spot. So here's how they recommend going to look for this. And I thought this was a pretty good idea. So you go to Google, and let's say we're looking for rock and roll. And we come over to images. So here's all of our images. Because this is going to be published publicly, we want ones that we have freedom to choose. So we're going to come over here to tools and usage rights, and we're going to choose Creative Commons licenses. So these are ones that we have permission to use these, and we're not going to get in trouble for using any of those. Then let's say I like this one. So now, and you can see where this was, it's free image on Pixabay. Keep that in your mind, because there's a place to cite that as well. I think that's really important when we're teaching kiddos to use things they find on the internet to make that citation step a natural thing that we always do. So when we get to this image, we can right click on the image and we choose copy image address. So that's going to take the link that's associated with this image because it's published somewhere on the internet, and save it to our clipboard. Now we go back to our timeline and we're going to paste that in that cell. And we can kind of check it to make sure that that's what it is and that's what it will look like. And then for media credit, we're going to write Pixabay in there so that we know. We can caption it if we want to, but we don't necessarily have to. Thumbnail would, I don't think that's necessary. The tip video I said really kind of just skipped all this other stuff. And the background is if you wanted to go find a color, if you're into color numbers, you can put the color in there for background, or you can just use that blank and have a white background. That got a little bit more technical for me, so I didn't worry about the background. So, and now I just did that thing on my computer where I undid everything I just did. So anyway, you're gonna get to watch me do that all again. There we go. So get rid of all that stuff, put in my year, put in my headline, put in my media. So go back to my image and copy image address and paste that, and then put my media credit for Pixabay. All right, just to make it more interesting, I'm going to do one more right in front of you. Rock and roll 90s, we'll call this grunge rock. Got a music theme going on here. I did my gibberish here. So then I'll go back to my steps. I'll put in grunge rock and see what I get for images. Again, go to tools, usage rights, Creative Commons, and we'll get this picture from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on Wikimedia Commons. Oh no, Wikimedia Commons. Copy the image address, back to my spreadsheet, paste it, and then we'll call it Wikimedia Commons. So there's my two. So now I'm going to show you how to publish this. I've got my spreadsheet. I might give this a name up here too, so it might actually save in my drive. So music timeline. All right. Now to publish this, I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Share, and then Publish to Web. Now this is the part where it's easy to go rogue and think just you want to hit Publish, and it's going to say, are you sure? I'm like, yep, I'm definitely sure, Google. You want to copy this link, and then you're going back to the Night Lab website and you're putting that link here on their website, because they have the tool that converts everything in that spreadsheet into their timeline. So paste that there. For some reason that, oh, let's try it again. It must not have, I didn't copy it right. So I'm gonna copy it. Got all red, so I knew it didn't work. Paste, there it goes. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Okay, isn't it good when I model mistakes? When I said go rogue before, I actually did that as I told you not to do it. Don't paste this, get rid of that. Go up here to the URL in the menu bar and copy that, and then go back to here and paste it there. And it should work. There it is. You see it down there? So here's my preview, and it's got my picture and my rock and roll at the beginning, 1980, and then 1990 grunge rock, my picture, and then my gibberish. So there's my preview and what it looks like so far. And if I want to get the preview link, I can open preview in a new window. And this is what it would look like in a new window. And so if I wanted to share this link, like in Google Classroom or in an email or however we share things, I could copy and paste this link and share it with other people. So other than that part where I flubbed it up at the end and modeled how not to do it, hopefully I can come back to this and I can continue to add things to it. I don't even know what music in 2000, what did we transition to? More of a hip hop maybe? And it's saving to drive. When I come back to my timeline and hit refresh, there it is. It showed up there automatically. So it will auto update for you. Okay, so what I'll have you do now, because that was a lot of steps and it really is something you want to just do yourself and practice. So make something ridiculous. Come to the website, and I'll put it in the chat box, and open that up if you haven't already, and make a copy of that spreadsheet and start seeing if you can make your own timeline. And then if you have questions or you get stuck, reach out and I'll see if I can help you. You watch me make mistakes, so it's easy to do. Do you have any questions right now?
When I go to put the image in there, the media, do I copy the image address or the link address?
I think it's image address, because the link is just going to take you to the website where it lives, but we want the actual link associated to that image.
When I put that in, I've tried it on several different ones, I get this huge address that just fills like pages of the column.
Okay.
And it's just got so much stuff, and it appears to wipe out the little text and everything else I have in there already.
Shoot.
Have you ever seen that before?
No. Let's see. So when you're in a spreadsheet, you can highlight. Do you know how to format the cells so that you get automatic text wrapping? No. Okay, let me show you. Let me show you. If you go to your cell and highlight it, and then go to Format, Wrapping, and then choose Wrap, or Clip would work too, because Clip would make it shorter.
Okay.
But Wrap is just gonna like change the cell. Do you see how it just like made it like that? I think mine were set to Clip. So
okay.
So Formats, Wrapping, Clip, and then that makes it so it's just you can see where it kind of gets lost behind the other stuff, but it doesn't take over the spreadsheet. See,
can I do that before I paste it in?
You could do it before. Yeah, you could format the cell before you paste, and then put it in and see if that works.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Looks like we've got awesome. Germany invades Poland. Move all my stuff over so I can get to the. There we go. Occupy Paris, 1940. Enters war, 1941. Pearl Harbor, bombs Pearl Harbor. Invade Africa, Allies invade North Africa, 1942. I love this, and I like how I can see what's coming up next too. You put a lot in here. No media, not adding that yet, but the timeline filled out with historical events. How great is that? And even if you've got, I think this would be such a great thing for kids to kind of have as a visual while they're reading through the material too. So great job, Carrie. That's awesome. And the fact that you were able to create that and publish it and share it, you're good. And one thing also to think about is, remember that Google Sheets is collaborative. So that means that more than one kid could create a timeline together. So they could share it among a small group and the whole group could be adding dates and things. And the timeline will automatically put these in order for you. So if they accidentally, put in the wrong thing, that won't mess anything up too badly. So, but yeah, thanks for sharing, Carrie. I'll give you
go through again how to share this with you.
Sorry, I was muted. Let me go back to my screen here. Okay, so if I'm at my spreadsheet, and this is not the spreadsheet we were looking at. So Jerry, have you gone through the share publish to web steps? Is that what you need first?
No, I've published it to the web. I just wanted to share it with you.
Okay. All right. So have you pasted it in the website right here?
Yeah.
Okay. So then if you scroll down to step number 4, you should see open preview in a new window.
Got that? Yeah.
And you open that, and then that takes you to your timeline, and then you just come up to the bar here and copy that entire address.
Right.
I did that. Paste it into the chat box.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Carrie, you asked, how would you share the timeline with students needing differentiation? Is that your question? Okay, so meaning students that needed to either go faster or go slower. Is that what you were kind of thinking? So I think if we giving them the format with the dates already started. Okay, so then you would start, you'd have your spreadsheet and you could get it started, your template started, and then you could share the template in Google Classroom and choose make a copy for each student. And then they would get their own version of the template, and then they could add in their stuff and then go back to Night Lab and add and publish it that way. Does that make sense? All right, Jerry, I got your email here. So let me open the email. My email off so that the bings and bongs didn't get in the way here. All right, I've got it. I'm going to share Jerry's here. Let me get back to Zoom and share my screen. All right, Jerry is born. Jim and Bev are thrilled. Jim and Pam, not so much. All right, good. So it looks like I just see the one date on here. Is that, or did you not put? Am I seeing it right?
Yeah, I just did one slide so I could figure out how I'm not so much concerned with the building as the going through the process afterwards.
Perfect. You did it. So we've got media, we've got headline, we've got date, we've got caption, and it's published and shared. So now you can just keep adding to your spreadsheet and the timeline will continue to build. So nice job. All right, did anybody have any questions or anything you struggled with, or any tips and tricks you learned along the way as you were, any tech tool has like tweaks that have to be made. Do you want to shout them out?
I kind of feel like this is a rabbit hole. Like I thought I'd just make like a really quick, and then I'm like, oh, but I could do a picture of this, and then I can add this and be more specific. So
yep,
that's a tip for a trick, but I could see where you could spend a.
It's where I had to stop at college last week. It was like, oh my gosh, I mean, we only got into like the first 20 some years here. Like, but it's something you could build on too, which
for sure, for sure.
And then I don't know if all of you heard, walking Carrie through, if you needed to differentiate for students and there were certain dates you wanted them to use or certain headlines you wanted them to use, you could pre-fill the template. and then share the template with them. And then if you're using Google Classroom, share it in Google Classroom and make a copy for all students. You can choose which students get which template, which might make it a little bit easier. She spent hours creating a timeline looking not as nice as the one you posted here. So see, isn't it cool? It's so easy and it's free. It doesn't get any better than that. And I think, once you do the steps a few times, it's not too hard to just to get it to kind of tweak it and play with it and have fun with it. I want to talk about, as I said before, this is our last Media Lab session, but just for this series, I have in the early stages of developing our summer virtual learning options. So we're going to have a Media Lab starting in June. And originally I was just going to do 5 sessions, but the people I had presenting for me came up with such great ideas that I kind of expanded it. And I'm hoping to go all the way into August. And Sarah's here, and she's one of those awesome people that has agreed to present. Sarah, did you want to say anything? I saw you turned your mic off there.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited to do Canva and then Google Sites.
Yes,
for students. So there's lots of really good ideas that all of the presenters have. So I hope you guys come to them.
Yeah, so these will start June 13th. They'll be on Monday mornings at 10 a.m. For 2 hours. I liked this idea of talking a little bit about one of our PBS programs before we talk about the digital storytelling tool, as a way that there might be a connection between a PBS program and the digital tool. So we're not just gonna talk about finding your roots. I'll dig up other productions, maybe some of our local productions, and share a little bit of the resources there. And then we're hoping to cover Google Slides, PBS Kids Scratch Junior, Book Creator, Write Reader, Canva, Google Sites, Boom Writer, and Book Track will be on the same one. And then Soundtrap. So waiting for confirmation from that presenter, but I'm optimistic that she'll want to do this. They'll go all the way into August. You'll get the OPI credits for attending in person. And of course, we'll record them and archive them on the website if you want to go back and watch them then. And then just like these, we'll give away prizes and give you a chance to practice and create things. And the difference will be it won't be after school. And so you can do it from home, wherever you happen to be. The registration is live. I've already set that up. So if you go where it says register here for Summer Media Lab, you can go ahead and get yourself registered. It's just like this one, register for one and you're registered for all of them. You don't have to come to all of them, but you're automatically on the list. So when we start sending out the links on Monday mornings, you'll be signed up to get those. Invite your colleagues, share it around. Love to have as many people join us for Media Lab as we can get. And then I'm also going to do a summer online book study. I did this last summer and it was very successful. It's a nice small group of teachers. We read the Startup Teachers Playbook, which applies to any teacher, any grade level, any content area. It's a book that walks you through the design process and using entrepreneurial thinking to come up with a way to solve a problem that exists in your classroom or your school or your community, and walks you through the steps to actually solve that problem and implement some kind of a solution. So for this one, we had teachers I've always wanted to do a reader's workshop in my classroom, but I just never had the time to sit down and make it happen. So they used the steps from our book study to get their plans all laid out. And then they started the school year ready with this plan. So the book really walks you through the steps to personalize this. So if you come with, I want to differentiate for my high level learners, but I feel like I just don't have the time to do that. You could use the steps in the book to come up with a plan or an idea for this. Last summer when we did it, we had a couple of PE teachers, a couple of special education teachers, and some a guidance counselor, and then a 4th grade teacher. And for the most part, the PE teachers and the special education teachers were like, this is the most relevant PD we've had in a while because we can focus on the stuff that we're doing, and we can apply this to our students and what we know we'll be teaching next year. So again, it's free. It'll be on Wednesdays starting at 10 a.m. Each session, there'll be about 5 sessions. The first 10 people that register, we will buy you the book and mail it to you. And after that 10, you'll have to buy the book yourself. I also have the fun advantage of knowing the authors of this book. I used to work with them. They both used to work for PBS, and now they're consultants on their own. And so they will be joining the book study from time to time and popping in and talking through it with us and sharing their insights. And they're both really amazing professional development facilitators and really dynamic individuals. So it was a treat last year to have people. So you can join that book study here. Registration is already set up if you want to do that. Thanks, everybody. Really enjoyed this series, and I hope to see you again at more Media Lab workshops.
Thank you.
See you later.